Coming Down is proudly sponsored by Colorado Ganja Gear. Artist-produced grinders for any of your herbal needs. So these are cool, man. Like, I actually own one.
Hell yeah. They are super rock solid. I've totally used yours before. It's smooth, it's got a nice action, and it gets the job done fast.
It really does, and I'm always impressed because it doesn't, like, totally pulverize what you're grinding in there. It leaves it nice and fluffy, and you get a good, consistent texture for whatever you're going to do with it afterwards.
Yeah, I'd never really thought about it before, honestly, like the actual shape that the teeth of the grinder are in can actually have an effect on the quality of the material afterwards. But you're right, it's not just like a green dust. It's like fluffy, pillowy, it's perfect for rolling. It's great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and so these things are sweet. And the other cool thing is the lid is magnetic, which a lot of grinders don't have.
Yeah.
And so, you snap that thing on, and then while you're grinding, you're not really worried about it coming apart.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it pulls apart into a few different chambers, so your lid comes off, you can put your herb in the top there, grind it up, unscrew the middle, and then that's where all of your goodness is, but there's a screen underneath that catches all that other goodies that go to the bottom.
Yep.
And each one of these comes with a little scraper for that bottom section, so you can get all that keef awesomeness out of that bottom there.
That's so clutch. Like, some of the older grinders that I used to use didn't have any of that, and they'd just get gummed up after a while, and you lose a bunch of that stuff. And like, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, for real. So there's like the technical specs. I mean, we should also mention that the teeth are just razor sharp, so again, great for grinding, and it's aircraft grade aluminum, which is pretty wild. So I didn't know this previous to this, but a lot of grinders, the cheapos that you get, the metal will actually kind of start shaving off, and boy, you don't want to smoke that,
right? Or
eat that, or whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah, I mean, if your teeth have changed shape, if they're smaller and duller, then you have probably smoked some metal.
Yeah, so the technical craftsmanship on these alone are awesome, but where it really shines is they each have original artwork done by local artist Lori Beatty. They're really, really cool.
So nice, yeah.
So she designs all her own mandalas and does like sacred geometry, and then laser etches them onto the lids and the bottoms of these, so they just look badass.
Right? I mean, like, you can screen print all you want, but this is laser etched. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's got an anodized surface, so it's like this cool black background with this etched laser diagram in it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, they're so cool. So anyhow, they are our sponsor. If you go to their website, it's etsy.com/shop/Colorado Ganja Gear. You can put in a code, Coming Down, and that'll get you $5 off. Or you can go to our website and there will be links directly to, and then you don't need to put in the code. But either way, you can score $5 off on these by going through our portal.
Yeah, they come in 3 different sizes. They're shipped in a nice black box with a black silk bag inside, so they make great gifts. We love them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hell yeah, Colorado Ganja Gear. Thanks for being our sponsor. Well, hello, friends. Welcome to Coming Down. My name's Nathan. I'm sitting down with Matthew.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so we've kind of got a lot to talk about this episode, so I don't know if there's too much bantery stuff to get into.
I mean, wow, we're going to be going for so long if we don't just get right to it.
Yeah, so we'll just talk about some cool stuff. So, we have 2 new patrons, which we always want to give a shout out when they sign up. So shout out to Julie Bullard and shout out to Will, last name withheld.
We thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for chipping in. It's, gosh, the more people that sign up, it's just making it so much easier for us, and we love you so much.
Damn straight.
We really can't express our gratitude enough. So
yeah, thank you, Will and Julie.
Yeah, and all the people who continue to support us too. Thank you.
Yes.
The other thing, so speaking of, that's perfect segue into, I finally got the bonus episode all edited up.
Yes.
So that should actually already be out. By the time you're hearing this intro, all of you patrons should have gotten an email. You should have access to that bonus episode, and boy, it's a riot. Yeah, we get super wily with some hypothetical questions. It's a lot of fun. And so for anyone out there, if you're wanting to hear some of these bonus episodes, just sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/comingdownpod.
Yeah. Just $1 a month at the lowest tier?
Yeah, totally. $1 a month gets you access to all our extra silly ramblings. It's awesome. The other thing, as you probably noticed, is that we now have a sponsor. And so we'll sort of pull the curtain back a little bit. That sponsor is actually my mom, who is the guest of this episode. So we wanted to tie it all together and do her episode when we launched the sponsorship with her company. And so yeah, you heard it at the top. She runs a company called Colorado Ganja Gear, and they make really cool grinders. Again, you heard it at the top for all the details, so I won't run through it again, but we're really happy to be working with her. And
yeah, I mean, dude, even if she wasn't your mom, like, these are still high quality grinders, and we fully support their quality and their use. So.
Yeah, nepotism aside, we actually like what's happening here. So
absolutely, we like the art, we like the function, like everything on those.
And I think maybe our listeners might have some use for something like this.
I've got a feeling.
Yeah, I've got a feeling. So anyhow, wait, is there anything else that we needed to talk about? Overall housekeeping stuff?
I mean, like, we talked about your mom, we talked about the grinders, we introduced the episode. Like,
all right, yeah, cool.
Housekeeping.
Yeah, let's do it. So, just, if you want to get a hold of us, follow us on Twitter at ComingDownPod. You can email us, comingdownpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and if you want to be on the show, that's the best way to hit us up. Check out our website, comingdownpod.com, and so, that'll have the link to the grinders.
Yes.
That'll have, I think, we're going to put a link on all the show notes for the individual episodes, and I think there will be a banner up somewhere, so that'll all be easy to find.
Yeah.
But the website's trucking right along, doing great. That'll also have all the links to where you can find us, so Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and if you feel like giving a rate and review on Stitcher, we would love you for it.
Yeah.
I think without further ado, though, this episode's great. We recorded this back when my mom was out for the wedding, and we had a really fun time doing this one.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good moments in this one.
Hell yeah.
So without further ado, let's go.
Enjoy.
Yeah, just, make sure you...
As long as you're comfortable, doesn't matter.
Just make sure you're comfortable. But
I think I should stop drinking this bubbly.
She's gonna be like,
That's wouldn't be the first time.
Just set that down there. Actually, I'm going to grab just some regular water.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, the mic will even pick us up if we're in the kitchen, as long as we're, like, talking a little bit loud. So, I mean, don't worry about not getting picked up while you're sitting in that chair.
Yeah, and I do compression, so if we're all, like, cackling really loud or whatever, I have something that kind of brings that down.
Right.
So, yeah. So I guess we'll let the listeners at home know that we're sitting down with my mom, Lori. Really, really good to have you in town. It's really cool that we're doing this, actually.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I love that you're doing this podcast, Nate, because I know it's been in your vision for a long time, and now it's actually happening, which is really cool.
And what are you in town for?
We are celebrating Nathan and Ricky getting married.
Wait, did you guys start?
Yeah, we're rolling.
We should restart.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you like it so far.
It's fine. I'll edit what it needs to edit out. I'll cue it in when it needs to cue in. It's fine. We're all just hanging out, right?
Yeah. It's so good to be here. It is. I like Portland.
Yeah, it's a great city.
Except I don't really. I mean, I do, but I'm over it by the time we leave. It's dirty. It's crowded.
It's a little scummy.
Yeah,
but I like the scum.
I get that. I mean, there's a lot of texture here, and I understand the attraction to that. It's different coming from Colorado, and
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely different than Colorado cities, but it's also way cleaner than
Yeah, I was going
Like
to say, like,
Seattle.
you compared to Sacramento or, you know,
Yeah.
some of the other cities that we visited this year, and Portland looks pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Really?
I mean, when we were in Denver, like, you know, definitely didn't get to see much of downtown, but,
Right.
you know, it's also more spread out.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crowded here.
It
Maybe
is.
that's just
Yeah.
it for me. I'm looking for more space in my
For sure. That makes sense.
second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more space.
Oh, I don't blame you.
And Portland used to be a little bit better. Even when we came out 10 years ago, it
Oh,
was, you know, it was like a city trying to be a town.
yeah. Well, and the infrastructure is the same as it was when we moved out here 10 years ago. And there's, you know, what, hundreds of thousands more people?
Yeah,
Right.
there's so many more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, crowded is definitely an issue here.
Yeah. It does seem like it's kind of bulging at the seams, and I don't know where the overflow goes. You know, I
Goes
mean,
up.
it goes up, but it also goes into the streets. A lot of
Well,
homeless
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, you know, like I was saying that Portland's turning into San Francisco, and I was reading a crazy stat. I can't remember the exact one, so I'll misquote it, but it was a very large percentage of people in San Francisco that are homeless were one-time residents. So, I mean, just the price influx of the city has pushed people onto the streets.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The same thing's happening here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I would say it's probably happening everywhere.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
It
it was
is.
localized, but then we traveled a bit this year, and I was like, oh, no, there's homeless camps everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Big cities, it's just what's happening right now,
Right.
at least on the West Coast.
Right, because there's no, there's no price control anywhere for rent and inflation, and then, you know, the wages aren't matching up with that. So,
Right.
well, yeah, our economy is just totally screwy right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, and they're doing the same stuff with corporate debt that they were doing with bad mortgages.
Right,
So
right.
it's just going to take another nosedive here soon.
Right.
Yeah. Well, look forward to that.
Somebody passed the bong.
Oh, welcome to your cheerful Thursday afternoon podcast.
So cheerful that it's Wednesday evening.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking of our listeners.
Oh,
but,
okay, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Always thinking of the
Yeah,
listeners.
take that into the weekend. All right, so we're going to tell a story now.
All right.
So start us off. Set the scene.
Well,
Where does it all begin for this one?
I picked this story because I think that life is full of irony. And this is just one of the most ironic things that has ever happened to me. And it wasn't just an event, it was a decade or more of my life, how all of this unfolded. So,
Cool. These are the best ones.
Hell yeah.
yes. So, I'll start at the beginning.
May I just say that one of my favorite science fiction writers says that if someone who's committed gluttony is a glutton and someone who's committed a felony is a felon, then God is an iron.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right.
All right. Or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. So, when I was a young kid, my family moved from the Denver area to northern Colorado, Fort Collins, and started a whole new life at age 10. New schools, new friends, new neighborhoods. Parents bought a business, whole new lifestyle.
And that's when they bought the bakery.
That's when they bought a bakery
Yeah.
in Fort Collins, Colorado. Yeah, and so life changed for us. I mean, everything upheaval. We moved
Where'd you move from again?
from Arvada.
Okay.
Yeah, so we get settled into Fort Collins, and one day these people came to our house, knocked on the door, and they literally called themselves door knockers. I later found out, but knocked on the door, and they were traveling down the street in a big red double-decker bus, like straight out of London. They had
Oh,
this
wow.
thing imported from London and bought it as a gimmick, as a thing to attract kids. Seriously.
Okay.
And they knocked on the door, and they were from the church of somebody we call Jesus.
You may be familiar.
No, can I say the name of the church?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who cares?
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, I think they're fucking nuts. I think they're a cult, so that's why I didn't
I
know
mean,
if I
put
could.
them on blast.
Yeah, I mean, we're down to blast cults. Like,
Yeah, we only censor people you want to protect.
Right.
exactly.
Okay, well, Mom is not my real name. Yeah, so it was the Church of Christ. And so they come knocking on the door, and what they were doing is recruiting kids to ride on the bus to go to their church on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and get educated on the Bible, you know.
Boy, yeah,
Right.
And they were using children to get to parents
Of course.
eventually, right? You know,
Yeah.
but it was all gimmicky, and it's like, you know, my parents said, "Sure, you can go ride on a double-decker bus and go to church." They didn't see any harm in it, right?
Yeah.
I know.
How
Yeah.
old are you in this picture again?
This would have been in the 70s.
But how old are you?
10. 10 is when I started riding the
Yeah,
double-decker
different
bus.
times, you
Yeah.
know. Unsupervised at 10 wasn't a big
Right.
deal when I was that age.
Well, not
too,
only
you
that,
know?
but I had my little brother in tow, so I was the adult in this situation. It was like, yes, you can go and take him too.
Right.
Right.
Of course.
So we got hooked on riding the double-decker bus and going to the Church of Christ. And, I mean, it was kind of a place where we made friends, and we, you know, it was... for a kid, it didn't seem that
Seemed harmless
toxic, you know.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
just like, sure, we're going to hear some stories. We didn't realize we were being indoctrinated. We
Seems
were
like
just,
school or
yeah,
something, right? Yeah.
Just a nice place to be, you know, where Mom and Dad didn't worry about us, and we didn't get the third degree when we got home.
Yeah.
You know, because they didn't want to hear about
Right.
Bible
There's a way for you to
stories.
get out of the
Right,
house. And
right,
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that started then and went through. Not the bus thing, but we rode the bus until I was old enough to essentially drive, and we got very involved in the church. And
Did your parents ever start going?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's an interesting story in itself. But they did for a brief time until the minister of the church approached them one day about how much they were tithing.
Ah.
Yeah. And it wasn't
Not
quite
enough. It was
quite enough.
insufficient.
Insufficient tithing. Like, how the
Whoa.
fuck they knew this? I don't know.
Whoa.
You know?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
isn't tithing supposed to be, like, not necessarily anonymous, but just kind of like you
Yeah.
drop it in the thing and that's...
Right. But it was preached about a lot from the pulpit. And
Oh, for sure.
There was a minimum, you know.
Yeah.
The 10%, that was the minimum. But if you weren't hurting, like if it wasn't causing pain in your life, it wasn't enough.
Wow.
And that was pretty
That's
much
predatory.
across the board. Like if you weren't being persecuted for like your evangelism, like people weren't making fun of you for being yay Jesus, you weren't doing it right.
Well, that's the whole Christian thing is,
right.
you know, it's all about this pious shame, right? Because you are so awful in the eyes of God, and all your whole life is just to try and make it up to Him, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, happiness is a sin in itself, it seems, yeah. So now you're probably wondering why I stuck around so long, but I was at about, I don't know, I guess I started questioning things, you know, really questioning things like at around 14 and started asking questions, and then started recognizing the politics that went on in the church.
Seeing the hypocrisy.
Right.
and-
Well, the way that it was structured. So in this church, only men could be leaders.
Oh, great.
Only men could speak from the pulpit. Only men could lead a prayer, even, unless you were in a group of only women.
Wow.
But if there was 20 women and one man, it was the man who was going to lead the prayer.
Yeah.
And that's just how it was. It was.
I mean, that's how, you know, Christian religious structures have worked for a long time. I mean, probably we've only seen those changes in the last maybe 20 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, with the Catholic Church, it started with Vatican II, and I think that was in like 67 or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I guess those changes started moving out a little early, but yeah.
Well, I would say this: that church has not changed, though.
No.
In 30
male-centric.
years, I mean, that is how they
Gross.
interpret the Bible
Yeah.
and the laws of the early church. Right? There was no dancing. There is no dancing. There are no musical instruments in the church.
That's some bullshit.
There
Not
was
even an organ? Not
No,
the one
no.
lone dour organ?
no, not even a guitar for a wedding. Like
Yeah.
no musical.
Well, guitar's the devil's strings.
That's a devil's fiddle.
You seen that Elvis Presley?
Yeah. I questioned the guy who had the song leader who had the little thing that he blew into to
pitch
get
pipe?
the pitch pipe right. I'm like,
man.
hey, what would Jesus
Sounds like
do?
music to me.
What would Jesus do? Come on.
Sinner.
So one of their rules was we were not allowed to marry or date outside of the church. So they believe that they are the church. Like every other version, whether it be Protestant or Catholic, were not real churches. Only they had the truth.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so if you dated outside of the church, you were inviting in, somebody who was lost, somebody who was
didn't
already
want
going
you to bring in more followers?
Oh yeah, if
So
you got them
converted
converted,
them, right?
Then you're all
yeah,
good?
yeah, it's like yeah,
I saw that one coming.
yeah, absolutely. But
So if you started dating outside the church, they'd kind of scold you a bunch until you got them converted over?
well,
No, it's if you want to date someone, you better bring.
Oh,
them
you better
to
convert
church.
them first.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
But what happened with me is I started dating your father. And I got called into the youth minister's office. I got called into the deacons. So then I kind of went up the ladder. So it started with the minister, then I went to the deacons, and then I went to the elders. And they all gave me their, you're doing the wrong thing. If you don't straighten up, this is what's going to happen. And
What was going to happen?
well, ultimately what did happen, which was they officially excommunicated me from the church. And what that meant was all of my friends could not speak to me. Like if they ran into me in public, it's that shunning.
That's some Scientology
Tradition.
shit
Yeah.
right there.
Well, yeah, it's crazy shit.
Well, and it's weird because, I mean, this sounds like a lot of Mormon structure.
It is. It's
Yeah.
kind of it's a lot of the fundamentalism of this church was very similar to Mormonism.
But they were operating as just a Christian
Yeah.
church.
There was no secondary writings. I mean, it was only the Bible.
Okay.
But they were kind of strict about which version of the Bible, which translation.
Was it King James?
King James was acceptable.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
not the best
they
one,
went with like the New International Version or something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
NIV. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had their own schools. It's big. I mean, the Church of
Wow.
Christ is like as big as the Baptists in the South. I mean, they're similar.
And so that's kind of so they are kind of their own sect. Like church, it's like you could call Church of Christ separate from Protestant, separate from.
Go ahead.
If you ask them, their answer is no. Well, we are the church.
There is no other.
There is no other. We are the church. This is the continuation of the original church that Jesus founded, and we are the Church of Christ.
Huh.
Never mind the Catholics.
No. To them, the Catholics are a cult.
Well, I believe they are a cult.
I agree
but,
with-
I mean, they're
Yeah.
right about one thing.
Right.
however, I feel like we can extrapolate that a little bit further.
Yeah, the Catholics are a cult, and like even like the first Christian church down the street cult.
Yeah.
Everyone else was just even if you dated another Christian, no, it had to be from the Church of Christ.
Wow, that is
so,
rigid.
So anyway, I meet this guy named Mark,
Yep.
And he and I started dating. And I wasn't telling anybody at the church because I knew what the rules were, right? But we ended up really getting serious about our dating. And that's when I got called in. That's when I got excommunicated. That was when I was about 18. And all of a sudden, my entire friend base was gone.
Because you had been going since you were 10.
Right.
Wow.
So
Right.
all of your friends were from there.
Right.
Now, you said they had their own schools, but you went to public.
Colleges.
Oh, they have their own colleges?
Yes.
Church of Christ College?
Yes.
Damn.
They don't
that
call it
degree
Church of
mean
Christ.
anything?
Oklahoma Christian College is
Oh, okay.
funded by the Church of Christ. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And the way that they structure things, I mean, there's a main minister every year. You are asked to be there Wednesday, Sunday, twice.
Wow.
Really strict rules around, like premarital sex.
Of course.
None
of
of
course.
that. All of that. All of the really. They would encourage a woman to stay with somebody who was beating them.
What?
Seriously, they would, because divorce was not acceptable.
Oh, God.
Right.
So
Wow.
after I got excommunicated from the church, and ultimately Mark and I ended up getting married, but for me, I went through like years of post-traumatic with, like desensitizing myself.
Oh, yeah. Deprogramming.
Deprogramming, yeah.
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 And having to build new relationships and like find new friends.
So you hadn't really made any friends in high school? All your friends were church friends?
All of my friends were church friends.
Wow.
Because, like, if there was a dance at school, we couldn't go to a dance. So we all would get together and do something on a dance night.
Wow. I never knew this about you, Mom.
Yeah.
I never knew how deep I knew you went to that church,
Yeah.
but I never knew how deep it was.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Recently, I had a friend come back into my life that she and I were friends in the Church of Christ. And our stories are really similar, how she broke away from the church and had to kind of reprogram herself, kind of wipe the slate clean to figure out if it's not this, as we were told, if it's not, as it was like drilled into us, then what is it?
Right.
But until you kind of clear that away, it's hard to even think of something else.
Well, that's so common among cult victims. I mean, like whether you're talking Scientology or the Moonies or, Jonestown, like all of those people were isolated, and once they tried to reintegrate with society, they had to reboot their lives,
Right. Yeah.
So just based on what you've said already, I would say that your estimation of that church being a cult is correct.
Right. So, I kind of felt like I had to reboot my psyche, because it took me probably 2 years to where I could actually sleep again.
Easily.
Just the fear of like dying and going to hell. It was just so programmed in me.
Yeah.
God.
And now I look at that and I'm like, wow. That's not even in my awareness or my belief system at all. So I know it was just like what they were drilling in.
Right.
It doesn't resonate as truth at all in me. All mind stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, so the story goes on. When I married Mark, he was a complete atheist. Like, he didn't believe in God. He was committed to atheism. He just...
Can't even believe
I
that.
know.
I mean, right on,
Yeah, we still haven't done my dad episode, but for the listener at home, you'll all learn about my dad in more detail at some point.
Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy was a total hippie, could barely get him to wear shoes, much less, commit to anything like a belief system or whatever. How he and I connected, I'm not quite sure. I wasn't really wanting to convert him. I just was really interested in him. And so anyway...
Because he was a bad boy?
He was...
He was a no-shoes bad
he was
boy?
kind of... Because he had a different perspective on life. And found happiness...
Where'd you meet him? Because obviously he wasn't at the church.
No, we met on the job. We met...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so we met both working at a newspaper. And obviously ended up getting married, had a kid. This was, so now we're like at 5 years into our relation, or no, we're at about 4 years into our relationship. One day, a friend and colleague of ours comes to our house to drop off some work. Mark was at work and he was dropping off work for me. And he comes in and he says, "Hey, what do you think about Mark's big decision?" I'm like, What are you talking about? He's like, "Yeah, what about Mark's big decision getting baptized yesterday? He accepted the Lord." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I didn't know this either.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so...
Plot twist.
Plot twist. Do you remember Randy?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So come to find out, the story unfolds that Randy and your father have been secretly having Bible studies together.
Whoa. Closet Bible study.
Closet Bible
Way to
studies.
step out on your wife, Dad.
Having
Right.
an affair with Jesus.
Right. Have a little affair with Jesus.
Whoa. So Randy was a coworker of y'all's at the
Somewhere.
newspaper.
No, this was a different. We had both moved on to different jobs. So,
Oh, okay.
So your dad had met him down in Boulder at a graphics house that he was working at.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. Yeah.
And then Randy was like, "Hey, man, you ever heard
Hey,
of?
man, have you ever?
You ever tried a little Jesus?
Yeah.
I know you tried
God.
weed, but
Anybody want to see God? I got this Bible right here.
Well, Mark did spend a lot of his time in the dark room, so I think Randy was like, "Come on out to the light, brother. Come on out."
damn,
Yeah. So anyway, Mark did come to the light,
so to speak.
so to speak, and got himself baptized, and so I
But
don't.
behind he didn't talk to you about any of this?
I had no clue he was interested in Jesus at all.
Well, and at this point, you weren't full blown atheist. You were just excommunicated from this church, right?
I was
Or, I mean,
excommunicated. I was trying to get my life back together.
yeah, you were just sort of
basically.
trying to wrap your head around
Right.
where your beliefs
Now,
actually stood, right?
About how long after you'd been excommunicated did he get baptized?
About 3 years.
How long do you think he'd been doing Bible studies before that?
Since he was born. I think he came into the world that way. No, I think it was probably like 6 months.
Weird.
Yeah.
Why do you think he didn't feel comfortable telling you about it?
Did it on the sly?
Yeah. Why did he go behind your back and get baptized and do Bible study? This is just weird.
Well, I think because part of my process of deprogramming is, there was a lot of grief involved in that. And
Well, right.
at one point there was huge rage that was coming out towards the church,
Yeah.
towards God, towards anything religious. And I was just like, don't mention fucking Jesus around me. So that might be why.
Maybe the words "don't mention fucking Jesus" around me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember that. That was pretty funny. No, I think that he was, but I also think that he was like testing it out. Like, what if he didn't want to like bring it in and then decide, nah, that's not for me. Like, it didn't want to. I think he really wanted to.
Huh.
I don't know. I think he got brainwashed. Honestly.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think he just,
Drank the Kool-Aid somehow.
He did.
Sounds like
He
it,
did.
yeah.
I don't know what happened, but because it didn't really end there. It wasn't like a moderate conversion. He went crazy fundamentalist.
Yeah.
So this now brings us back to the church again. So he ends up actually getting baptized in the Church of Christ.
Shut up.
Right?
What? Did he know that was the church that you got excommunicated from?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But this was now the different cities.
Weird.
Sure, but I mean,
Okay.
like 3 years from shoeless hippie to like getting baptized in the cult that you got free from. Like,
I know.
And
man,
the cult that excommunicated your wife?
yeah,
That's weird.
that's a really fast, weird conversion.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
That'd be like hooking up with your wife's like ex who was abusive or something. Like, and you knew
Yeah,
that. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah,
so your ex was really abusive and did all this stuff to you? Cool. And then like give him a call.
yeah,
Be
like, hey,
you want to get together?
you want to like just beat me?
Yeah.
Don't tell her.
Oh god, that's so weird.
I feel like I need a shower now.
Well, you should. It is.
I know.
It is weird.
It is.
I'm trying to understand the psychology behind that, and it's pretty baffling, you know.
Well,
It is. Well, and it gets more baffling with
Well,
with Mark. So
Let's go, jeez.
So he comes home finally, and obviously we have to have this discussion, and he tells me, yeah, I've joined the church, I got converted, I've accepted Jesus as my Lord. I would like for us as a family to rejoin the church. We need to have part of this was we need to have something to teach our child. I think he was like scared of the void. Like he was afraid of the questions and not having any answers for you.
Wow.
And a lot of that was like, okay, well, at least we can teach him the Bible.
So you think having a kid did it for him?
So
where he like had
well-
this kid and was like, well, now I don't know like what to impart on him, and so like maybe someone could tell me that.
Just
Maybe I don't know.
like some kind of insecurity over whether or not he was going to raise you right.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a fear that you wouldn't expect and would come up, but
Still, like
Still.
of all the
So-
choices you
right.
could make,
way to just go hard though,
Or what if it was guilt? What if he actually was trying to make up for getting me excommunicated?
Ah,
Yeah, I mean, I can see being that backwards, but whew,
Yeah. Either way, it was fucked up.
yeah,
So anyway, what was more fucked up is I agreed to go back.
that's
And
pretty fucked.
And, with the idea of let's be a happy family, let's all be on the same page, let's. And we got back into the church, and
this couldn't have lasted long because I don't really
No.
remember going.
it didn't last very long.
I think I vaguely I know the church and I vaguely remember going maybe a couple times or a
Right.
handful of times, but
I think we maybe went maybe 6 months at the most, Nate, and I never could connect with anyone. I was having trouble putting you in Bible classes, going, God, he's going to get the same brainwashing.
Yeah.
I wasn't really into it.
were your old friends still there? Were you able to reconnect with some of them at least?
A little bit,
Yeah.
but
But did everyone keep you at arm's length
Yeah,
since you'd
pretty
already
much.
been excommunicated?
since I'd been excommunicated and since they had been shits, I think a lot of them just felt like, they were afraid. They were afraid to come back and, say they were sorry for being assholes.
Yeah.
So we get back into it, and then one day Mark comes home and says, God has spoken to me, and I am not supposed to be married.
How convenient.
I am not supposed to be married at all. And
But wait, but God strictly condemns divorce. So how did he talk his way out of that?
Hey, I mean, the Lord works in mysterious ways, Nathan.
Oh, that's that is the age-old get out of jail free card when it
Yeah.
comes to religious bullshittery.
If God
Right.
told you that, He's got a plan for you, maybe it doesn't fit with. I don't know.
I know,
I
right?
don't know either. But
Because
I
it's hard to
thank
spew
God
that
for
much
that.
bullshit at once, dude.
Right.
We're not practiced or versed in it.
I don't know who was talking to him, but he was determined, and even the guy who converted him could not talk him down from it. And
Wow, the guy who converted him was like, dude, don't divorce your
right,
wife.
yeah.
Wow.
And so Mark did leave, and he got excommunicated from the church for initiating the divorce.
Oh, wow.
Meanwhile, I'm still stuck in the church going, what? He got ousted, but I'm still here. I don't really want to be there, but I made friends with this woman, and we became lovers, and then we both got excommunicated again. And she was
this Leslie?
That was Leslie.
Fuck yeah.
And she happened to be a preacher's daughter.
Oh Lord!
And, oh Lord, right? Oh
Yeah.
Lordy.
I love it.
Yeah. So
That's
that pretty
wonderful.
much put the nail in the coffin there. I won't be going back.
The nail
to
on the cross.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, I am happy that you got a final fuck you out of it.
I did.
You know?
Right?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, bang the pastor's daughter. Exactly. Get the fuck out.
Right? Just gonna fucking put my stamp on it before I
I'll
leave.
show you. I'll convert one for you. Yeah. She's still a lesbian, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She always has been.
Always is. Yeah. She didn't get sent to conversion therapy. She did get sent to the Christian college, but I think that's where she really came out, honestly.
Yeah.
Is at the Christian college.
Wow. That's so insane. That's a lot of stuff that I was not aware of. So, holy shit. I mean, I really didn't know that. And I guess, like, I probably would have asked eventually, but I don't know. I guess, yeah. In my adult years, I never asked why you truly got divorced. And I didn't know it was because my dad was just like, nope. Jesus time. You know?
Later, son, I gotta go talk to Jesus.
Yeah.
How old were you when the divorce happened?
4 or 5?
Oh.
5.
5? Yeah.
Yeah, and that first year after Mark moved out, he moved into this really dank basement apartment, and he like bought every book he could get his hands on about the apocalypse, the second coming, the end of time.
Yeah, he got real into that stuff.
He did. He went wacko. Like,
And like demonology
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh God, he got Book of Revelations on it.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Boom.
Right.
He had these books. He had
That's
at
some
least-
heavy metal Christianity right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I almost don't want to like tell too many stories about my dad because I just want to save him for the whole dad episode and tell just the whole like my experience with my dad and watching him go from like I didn't realize it happened that early, but I guess it kind of did.
Mm-hmm. That was the early days of his conversion.
But over the course of several more years, he went
Yeah.
even more off the deep end.
Right.
I mean, to the point that we don't speak anymore. So
Right.
yeah.
Wow.
Right, and that was really, I mean, I'll talk about my experience because what I was going through was coming out as a lesbian,
Yeah.
dealing with a crazy fucker who was threatening to take my son because I was a lesbian
Fuck.
and trying to
Oh, he was
out.
trying to get custody?
Yeah. He didn't have the ambition, but I felt like I was walking a razor's edge the whole time because he was looking for something that would have given him the leverage he needed to make a quick custody case.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. And, you know, and then
Yep.
deprogramming you every time you would come home
Yeah.
from a weekend.
I look
with
back
him.
on those and remember coming home and spewing the bullshit that he would tell me over the weekend, and you guys would just be like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and you'd sort of like let some of it happen, but then, yeah, I could tell. I mean, looking back on it, I can really tell like how shitty that must have been for you.
Well, it was shitty for you, Nate, because like I remember nights when you would go to bed, but then you would just be crying in your room, and I would come in and you would be like, "You're going to hell, you're going to hell," and just the fear and the
Oh yeah, I used to stay awake at night. Even not just the idea of hell, which is terrifying, of
Right.
course, but the concept of eternity
right.
Yeah.
would make my brain twist into knots, and I couldn't handle it. And I mean, I'll still do that if I kind of let my mind wander and start thinking about things like forever and eternity. But as a kid, it's like, how are you supposed to wrap your head
Right.
around these concepts and then
Right.
put in eternal torture or eternal,
Right.
paradise? And you just like can't comprehend these things at all.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, so it was intense. Especially the earlier years of the divorce were pretty intense as far as trying to co-parent in a healthy way, and then watching your dad get remarried also, like a year after the divorce, after God had told him, you're not supposed to be fucking married.
Was it only a year?
It was like...
Wow, God
yeah,
changed his mind quick.
yeah. And then David was born, and then he had another child, like, within 2 years.
Well, that can't be right. Quite. Because if you got divorced when I was 5, and then that would have been he remarried when I was 6? No. It would have been like 2 or 3 years, and then another like 2 years. Because I think I was 10 or 11 when David was born.
You were... Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
you were playing... I remember you were playing football.
Oh, yeah. 6th grade, or 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
The Parks and Rec football.
Straight balling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was crazy time.
yeah, and that it was weird because, man, my memories of my dad, I didn't know how crazy he was being, but he was good with me, and so I definitely enjoyed our time together. And so then when he got remarried, and all of a sudden I had a stepbrother who sucked, and his new wife sucked, and like I was just like, well, this is all terrible. Like, we had a good relationship, just you and me, and now all these people are involved all the time, and I hate this. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, your dad was fantastic with you, and you were, I mean, through the pregnancy and the birth, and I mean, the way that he nurtured you when you were little, it was just, he was amazing. He was
Yeah.
amazing.
Huh.
Like, there's so many things that I look back on, like he would come and get you in the mornings so I could sleep, and he would bring you out into the living room and lay you on his he would lay you on his belly, and he would turn on classical music and play them through those exact speakers that are sitting right there,
Oh.
and just let you be immersed in music and sound, and you loved it. You know, and he
Yeah.
took the time to always have you close to him, like body close. Like he would put you in a backpack to do his chores, vacuuming around the house
Yeah.
and whatever. He just wanted you close to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
I went to work. He would bring you over to the office so I could breastfeed you, and then haul you back to the house. And we traded off, baby care. He was working nights and I was working days, and
Wow.
we made it work. He was definitely there. He, yeah.
God, I can't. It's just still so weird to think. Like, how do you just flip a dime so fast like that?
How do you get? Yeah. I don't know, Nathan. If I had an explanation, I would,
Yeah.
write a book about it.
Well,
but-
he obviously never gave you one. I'm sure you attempted to talk to him about this,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. Every time I attempted to talk to him about it, what I was met with was scripture quoting. Like, I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
It
was his favorite play with
Yeah.
me. Was anytime we tried to have a real discussion, it all just came back to
Yeah.
scripture quoting.
Right. And never could you say to him, we have to operate from the same base, which is reality, right?
Yes.
So this is your belief system. I have a belief system over here that I don't, it's not scribed out, so I
Right.
can't quote from it. But we have to operate from someplace in the middle.
Right.
And he could never get there.
Yeah, your scripture means nothing to me.
Right.
So let's find a different way to talk about this.
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
think there's something like psychological there? Like, do you think maybe he's not all there, or is it just like he's logicked himself out into a weird corner?
Wouldn't that actually be something psychologically wrong?
I guess you're right. I guess
you
you're
know.
right. Yeah, I mean,
But I
obviously
don't-
there's something weird
Yeah,
there. Yeah,
I don't know how he got there. I really don't know what he was looking for or what answers he really found in all of that. You know, in some ways, I guess maybe he found the father that he never had, which has scared me a little bit about you. Like, I've been afraid, what if Nate someday goes to a Bible study and, you know, comes home and
Well,
says,
I am Nate's minister, so
It's true.
don't worry about
It's
it.
true.
We got this.
okay, all right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that will never happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so, like, I don't know if it was a daddy issue or, like, I have no explanation. I can only really talk about what it was like for me.
Sure.
And,
No, and we can speculate till
Yeah.
the cows come home,
Right.
but it's, you know, doesn't really do us
Yeah.
any good.
and I spent a lot of years doing that,
Yeah.
which didn't get me anywhere.
I imagine. Well, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, how did you... God, you even talked about how you spent so long trying to, you know, emotionally handle the excommunication and having your life turned upside down, and then your husband, who you thought you could count on, did the exact same thing to
Right.
you.
Right.
Just when you're getting your shit back together, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh, P.S. Bye.
Well, he was kind of the third excommunication in a way, and so I can't imagine
Well, and
how
then-
long it took to sort of be comfortable. I don't know, to just feel okay about anything after all.
Right.
I mean,
Well, and divorce has a way of, like, thinning out your friends, too. Because,
Right.
you know, a lot of the friends that we had at that time were his friends. Because I hadn't really reestablished myself, you know?
right?
You'd only
So-
had a few years.
Right. So anyway, Leslie and I, you know, we depended on each other, and we kind of grew out from there. We, you know, started figuring out our sexuality beyond each other. I mean, just like who we were and how we fit into the community or all around us, and you know, really started. I felt like the psychological part on the second excommunication wasn't so much about the church as the divorce, but I didn't have to rebuild my entire psyche, but I had already started kind of rebuilding in what I'll just call new thought. You know, everything is energy. You know, God is energy. We are all just energy, and just starting to build a new me around that,
Yeah.
and creating a new life. So, and it's interesting when when you finally let go of something, how much stuff can come rushing in to support you and help you, you know, paint a new picture for yourself. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and you have to be able to look at it now and kind of almost be happy you went down that way, and that you're not still stuck in this hole.
You know what? I thank God. I thank that God every single day that it did. You know, and not all of the hardships of it, but
Sure, of course not.
ultimately the path. Yes, I'm so happy that I didn't stay married to somebody because that's what I thought the rule was, and that if I broke it, you know, something really bad would happen.
Yeah.
So,
Or even to not question your own beliefs and,
Right.
you know, do something for yourself once and then get punished for it by your whole social network and your
Right.
whole, like, support system.
right,
I mean, it's just crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, good for you for having the guts to stick up for yourself. you
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, the elders and the deacons. I still think about those meetings, sitting in there with them. You know, how they would. I mean, how hard it was for them to talk about sex, like,
Yeah.
you know, and to talk about homosexuality.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but I
It's
remember,
getting so uncomfortable.
right. I remember one time when I was like about 14, the youth minister called me into his office and said to me, "You are way too masculine, and you."
What the fuck?
No, seriously. Oh, that's not the worst of it. It said, "You are way too masculine. You need to start changing the way you dress, and you need to start." He was saying that I was responsible for my younger brother being too feminine.
What?
Right.
Whoa.
And he
You're sissifying that boy.
pretty much that's
Oh my god.
Damn.
Do you know him? Because I think those were his words.
Holy shit.
Something, but it was something along those lines. And he started giving me all these suggestions about how I needed to dress, and like I should engage my brother in a wrestling match, but let him win. And do all of these
Whoa.
things. Yes. Yeah.
The psychosexual implications there are
Aren't they? They are totally fucked, right? So I, being somewhat rebellious, decide, okay, I'll play your game. And so the next week at church, I came in with this dress on that was like skin tight and like low cut, like my cleavage was like all out there. And I'm like, feminine enough for you? Then I got called back into his office.
Well, no, not quite that feminine.
Need to back it off a little bit. Yeah.
All right, let me see what you're wearing.
Yeah.
All right, turn around.
Right.
That's sinful.
That's simple.
What a giant douche.
Yeah.
Wow.
The whole setup was like that, though,
Yeah.
from the top down.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah, I'm just at a loss for words at that sort of behavior. That's just crazy.
Right. Yeah, I've since heard some other stories about that particular youth minister, and yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling some bad shit went down. I mean, yeah. So.
Jeez.
So, the Church of Christ still is operational.
Mm-hmm.
Are they still as crazy as they have always been?
Yes. So I was telling you I had connected again with an old friend, and her mom recently passed, but her mom grew up in the church, raised my friend in the church, and until she, broke away. But her mom was still in the church when she passed away, and so a lot of the people that were, in our youth group are now the deacons and the elders of the church, right?
Right.
And so,
Right.
yes, so it is the exact same rules and regulations. I mean, it's like,
Oh, God.
yeah, yeah. One of the big teachings is that women are supposed to submit to men. And that was, to me, that was kind of the one that, in the back of my mind, I knew that's going to be my downfall. Right there. That's going to be the thing that gets me excommunicated.
Yeah.
Because I
And
was...
rightly so.
Right. It wasn't
Fuck
that,
that.
but it would have been eventually. Right.
Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's crazy that that's how it was even back then. But the fact that that's still what they're trying to perpetrate today is just fucking so backwards and nuts. Like,
Right. Yeah, and they don't really have like a central body that delegates the rules, the doctrine, or the dogma. I guess they have... There really isn't a central body, not like the Methodist Church or the Lutheran Church, where they hand down whatever. And every church pretty much knows what it is, what the doctrine is, but it's not being handed down from any other than God. And the Bible is very literal, like...
I mean, is it though?
Well, to them.
No, to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they cherry pick their literal bits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
convenient thing about
Exactly, because
Yeah, right.
I mean, just from Deuteronomy, you've got like tons of conflicting
Right.
information,
Yeah.
and you would have to stone people a lot.
A lot, yeah. One of the things, though, I will say is that there was a sense of safety there for me because my family life was pretty chaotic, right? So I did find some sanctuary there, and I'm really grateful for that. Now, where I'm at with my spiritual life and just who I am, I know that molded me a lot. And it's given me a lot of compassion for people trying to escape some sort of cultish situation.
I'm sure.
So
Definitely.
I feel like I really can relate to people a lot more, and it's amazing how many people are out there stuck in
Oh,
some
yeah.
belief system that they just, that they can't somehow get out of.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing any volunteering for that kind of stuff? Like cult outreach, kind of like maybe even just like a helpline kind of a thing?
No.
I mean, I'm sure you probably have a busy life already, but like, I feel like that's something that you would be good at.
Yeah. And
people
I
who
could
have
get a
been
big
through it.
following, and the
Let's start our own.
This is the cult for people who are leaving cults.
That's right. That's right.
All you have to do is accept me as supreme leader,
That's right.
Yep.
and you'll be out of this cult thing. It'll be great.
We'll send a bus for you.
Just got to show up on Wednesdays, twice on Sunday.
Twice on Sundays.
Get it all figured out.
Damn.
No, I do coach people,
Okay,
and that often comes into restricting people's creative expression. So if they've been trained in any particular, religion or belief system, I mean, it can be really hard to break through that just to be able to express yourself creatively. And so that's where I run into it more so.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that is truly some irony.
It is.
Holy shit.
There you have it.
Yes.
Yes. Praise
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, all right, yeah.
How do you end that?
Yeah,
story?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I'm
I
sure we
think
could
it's-
ramble on
Yeah.
and, talk shit about religion for a while, but yeah.
There will be plenty of that on this
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's ended on a good note. I think that ultimately it shaped me into a good human being, and
Well, absolutely, because I'll tell you what, we have a good relationship.
yes.
Even
yeah.
through everything, and I haven't spoken to my father in 20 years, so,
Fucking amen.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Well, God bless him.